Here's the code for our slider demo, and here we focused in on the code of interest. So as we did in the previous demo, we define a piece of text initially at location 2020, and here we're going to define ourselves some sliders. We're going to make ourselves a horizontal slider here, and we're going to show the tick labels and the tick marks, and we'll get a default set of tick labels and marks. We can change that if we want, but we won't. We'll just take those defaults. We're going to define a vertical slider the same way. The code looks the very same as it did for the other, except that we change the orientation because the default is horizontal and we're going to want vertical. And in this case, we'll set the vertical slider to a value, initial value of 100. Because we didn't say otherwise, the default value of 0 is going to be used for the other slider. As before, we'll make ourselves a pane to set the text into as its only child. And then we'll make a border pane which we're going to put everything. So the center part of the border pane is where the text is going to go, just like before with the scroll bar demo. This time we're putting a slider in the bottom, and that's our horizontal slider, and our vertical slider in the right hand side. Again, very similar to what you saw in the previous demo. We then set up our event listeners. We have 2 of them, and that's the rest of the code in this blue section that you see here. So the listener for our horizontal value property is right here, and what it's going to do is it's going to do something very similar to what the other demo did. In fact, the code is very little changed here, except for here you'll notice that we have SL vertical get max minus the value that we otherwise get from the previous demo. That's because we want 100 on the slider to be at the top, and we want that to represent the text is at a low location, 0, because remember the coordinates work in a way, if you look at the cursor on the screen as I move it, that as we move this way we're getting smaller values of x's, and this way is larger values of x's. And remember, up is lower values of y and down is higher values of y. When the slider shows at 100, we want that value to actually be 0 for y, and when the slider slides to 0, we want that to be 100 for y. So the way we make that happen is right here by putting that minus sign in here and subtracting our calculated value from the maximum value of 100. So that's what we have done. Now let's run the demo and see what it looks like. So as you can see, it's a much fancier version. We've got all these tick marks and we've got these numbers as labels. Apart from that, it does exactly what we saw in the previous demo, but those sliders certainly do look a lot fancier than the scroll bars did.